The following is a paid commercial announcement. The view of the following program does not necessarily reflect those of the staff, management, or sponsors of News Radio 1180 WHAM.
Now on 50,000 Watt News Radio 1180 WHAM. This is Ask the Experts. Grab a line now at 222-1180. Star 1180, a free call for Verizon Wireless subscribers, or the One Communications line at 1-800-295-1180. Now live from the WHAM studios in downtown Rochester, it's Ask the Experts.
Good evening and welcome to Simply Green Radio here, brought to you by Simply Green Energy and Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Brendan O'Riordan with you on this Sunday evening, Simply Green Radio. A bunch of experts around the table, so we could call this Simply Green Radio, Ask the Experts. In studio, as always, with Maurice Aubrey, Mo, the project manager at Simply Green Energy, specializing in renewable energy. Pete Marisi, True Story Pete, project manager for renewable energy for Mr. Rooter Plumbing, specializing in water conservation and its green division. And also Brenna Hartman of Fix You Chick and the founder of HealthyHomesOfRochester.com. So a pleasure to have you all three back here in studio.
Yes, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And weather-wise, it's a little bit, a little chilly out there today, but at least, hey, at least we're getting out of the real, thickness of winter. So we're.
Are you kidding? The sunshine has just been amazing. It's changed my whole outlook on life. 3 days of sunshine, and I'm a new woman.
There you go. Well, hey, Pete, or I'm sorry, Mo. Let's get right into this here, because if we have new folks listening to the program tonight, we obviously want to let them know, what Simply Green Radio is all about. Time and time again, I've said on this show, we're talking about things like saving money, saving energy, saving the earth, and sustainability starts at home.
Exactly. That's exactly right. The whole idea behind, Simply Green Energy is for just that reason. Anyone that's interested in knowing how to, cut down their utility bills, we do that with the geothermal heating and cooling. We're into the wind and solar panels and evacuated tubes. So it's really all about that. If you want a home that's sustainable, and we're the company to call.
And Pete, if I can, you're handy on the websites, and actually one now website, and I can give it out to folks, mysimplygreenenergy.com. But tell folks about that, because it really is a unique tool for our listeners to visit that website.
If you go onto our primary website, mysimplygreenenergy.com, at the very top of the page, there's a link that says "Listen to Simply Green Radio now." You click on that, and that will take you to our YouTube channel. And a channel is simply a web page that's designated for all of our videos. Now, we don't do videos here at the radio station. Mm-hmm. We record our voices and such. So you can go on to this YouTube channel of ours, and you can listen to every show that we've done in the past, the one that we're doing tonight, and so on. And you can listen to them continuously and in their entirety, or you can listen to them a segment at a time. What I do is I go to playlists, and I get it started, and it'll play all 4 segments. It'll string them out so I can listen to the radio. So now I can just minimize my screen and continue browsing and read the paper or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's just like listening to a radio show all over again.
And I think you've told me that you've learned more from listening back.
I have learned more from listening back. I've learned Mo doesn't do math very well, and neither do I. Okay, so you catch yourself in the mistakes and the gaffes, and it's there for everybody. But we're human, and in the heat of the moment and the excitement of the conversation, sometimes we miscalculate. But hey, that's okay, I guess.
How about that? I can't imagine I'd ever miscalculate,
yeah,
Pete. But it amazes me why anybody would want to revisit this a second time. I mean, isn't it painful enough the first time around?
No, Mo. There's an awful lot of details that come out during one of these shows, and I learned I cut a certain paragraph that Mike Parks said last week that there was 50 details in there, and I wrote it all down. I said, my gosh, I'm really starting to understand what's going on here. It was that the carbon credits and selling it back and that sort of thing, and but that's the whole thing. There's so much information that's coming out, and it's a lot of new terminology, a lot of new acronyms, a lot of different equipment that you've never heard of before, and it's hard to swallow when one listening. So you got to go back and you got to do your homework and you got to listen.
Well, and it certainly is. It really is. The show is really all about our listener.
Right.
We're trying to educate them to let them know what's available out there, what's on the cutting edge, what are the new technologies, and we're trying to get. And so far we've had some great guests.
Right.
I know we're gonna have a great guest on again tonight.
Right.
It's exciting. Like you said, I'm learning things. I'm learning things every week. So I guess there is an advantage, Pete, being able to listen to
Well,
ourselves.
our guest
again.
Rob Fornataro, we're going to get a twofer out of him tonight.
Yes, we are. We're
Because
going to stretch him out, aren't
Bob's
we?
going to talk about biomass, but Rob is also a LEED certified architect.
And LEED, I mean, you're talking about an acronym. Tell
Leadership
me.
in Energy and Efficiency Design.
Right.
It's actually a rating system, and guys like Rob will come in and they'll look at things like how sustainable the site is. They'll look at water savings. They'll look at energy efficiency. They'll look at the materials that you're selecting to construct the building and the indoor environment. Time for one of my little factoids.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Okay, are you ready for this?
Do tell.
Buildings produce more CO2 gas than the transportation sector or all of industry at large.
Wow.
Okay, buildings are the number one resource in the world for CO2. They're the number one emitter. They're carbon hungry, buildings. And guess what? We spend 90% of our time indoors. So put those two together. And what they found was they did a study, and I'll end it here, that people that work or go to school in LEEDs type buildings, green buildings, they're more productive by just about 10%. So it's better for students, it's better for workers, because they're comfortable and the environment's better.
People who work in those buildings have, I guess, at least according to those numbers, they have a better advantage over
when you're
in a
uncomfortable-
competitive workforce.
Do you mean comfortable temperature-wise, or
Yes.
what
The
other
temperature,
kinds
the
of-
air quality. Look, when you're uncomfortable, you just want to get that task over with.
And I'll tell you, Pete, I think I've been in some of these green buildings, if you will, and I know exactly what you mean. You feel so much better, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you have a lot of natural sunlight. And again, I don't want to steal Rob's thunder here today, but there's no question. We'll all, Brenna started this whole, show off tonight, this morning here by saying, or this evening, by
I know what you meant.
Talking about the sunlight, and the natural sunlight really does have a large effect on a positive manner for most people. So
That's like that's one of our guests was saying. That's his last week he was saying. That's his
right.
That's his. I mean, that's his source of.
Exactly. It's his. I think he coined it his nuclear reactor.
Yes.
The sun.
And his son. And we certainly would be in trouble without it. Without a doubt.
And from a housekeeping standpoint, Brenna, I know you wanted to mention something or ask something to. I think it was Pete.
I did. I wanted to do a little plumbing again this week. I had so much
I
fun with the
can't
toilet talk last
I
week.
can't wait.
Four guys and a woman talking about toilets.
There we
Gotta
go.
love that. My question to you, Pete,
Yes.
from the Mr. Reuter end of sustainability and all that fun stuff, is about backup sub pumps. I'm seeing a lot of advertising for that right now. We're coming into our wet, rainy season here in Rochester, and I'm wondering, what's the deal with a backup sub pump? Is that a necessity nowadays, or is that just an add-on, upsell?
Well, let's start at the beginning, okay? There's a lot of homes in Rochester that have sump pumps that don't even need sump pumps. It's because the house failed. It's not working the way it was originally designed. A subsequent company came in and they reverted to a sump pump, and they forced the house to work with more electricity than it was originally designed to work by gravity. Really? So they put in a sump pump, okay? And the sump pump lifts the water out of the basement and it puts it wherever it needs to go. Then there's a second pump you can add to that called a backup sump pump. Now, do you need one or not? Well, it depends on what you're trying to protect in the basement. If you've got a fully finished basement, I'd probably have a dozen pumps in my basement because to whatever it minimizes the risk. There are battery-driven sump pumps. There are water-driven sump pumps. People that are typically on city water have water-driven because they have a water pressure there. People that are in wells typically have electrically driven, because when there's no electricity, you have no water pressure when you're on a well, because your whole system is pump related. Mm-hmm. So when they have no electricity, they have to depend on energy that's from a battery. It's a backup system for the backup pump. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you something about backup pumps. We just here's a true story from last week.
True story, Pete.
Okay. We went on a house that was flooded. And there was a plumber there 2 or 3 days before us, and he replaced a sump pump, and he put in a brand new backup, water-driven backup pump. Great. Did a nice job installing it. It looked like $1 million. The problem was he never got to the root of the problem. The plugs outside, the pipes outside were all plugged. So I don't care if neither pump was able to extract the water. Well, backup sump pumps, water-driven ones, are injecting water into your house to be able to extract water out of your house. It works on a Venturi principle.
Okay.
So what happened was the backup pump flooded the house.
Oof.
Okay, am I making
Yeah,
sense?
no, that
because
makes sense.
it's injecting water to extract water. You shoot with a backup sump pump, you're buying a gallon of water to get rid of 2 gallons of water. That gallon you just put in plus 1 more.
Okay.
So that's the problem.
You know,
with backup sump
I
pumps.
want to steal a little bit of your thunder,
You
Pete.
can have it all.
A little factoid of my own.
All right.
Did you know that as the first of this year,
Mm-hmm.
New York State made it mandatory for these water backup sump pumps to have an alarm
Yep, they have an alarm.
if there's one installed?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And
And
coincidentally,
you know why that is, Pete?
yeah.
Do you know why that is? That's a question.
So you know,
I'm glad you didn't ask me.
gee, Mo, no, I don't.
That's in case your backup sump pump starts functioning and you are not aware that it's running, and they don't want you to burn through a whole bunch of water, and just let the water backup sump pump keep pumping. And so it's just to alert you so that you can get your electric one fixed.
Yeah, you can also tell your backup pump is working because you have no water pressure in the house.
Yeah,
It's
might
all,
be the other
it's
way.
all getting lost.
Well, let me, and Brenna, you mentioned this being the time of year. Just from a personal standpoint, I believe it was March of '03 when we had a fairly significant ice storm, and I remember, and it was not nearly on par with what happened in '91 because that anniversary was just 20 years ago, a couple of weeks ago. But in 2003, I remember my parents were away. They have a sump pump, and they don't have power in the house, so you're sitting there and you're bailing water, and of course everybody. I made it sound like Noah's Ark, but it really wasn't that bad. But it just goes to show you that those things can be a backup sump pump can be very helpful to you.
Well, you're getting into storm systems, and every house has a storm system, or it should. And the thing about a storm system, you will never, ever, 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 ever do any maintenance on it until you got a problem. That's when you'll address it, because everything is hidden, everything is buried. It does its job with nobody noticing, and it's just one of those things that when you don't have it, that's when you got a real problem.
So can I ask a question going
Yeah.
back to your story from earlier this week?
Mm-hmm.
How did you actually diagnose that problem?
Plumbers will normally get the water under control. That's the first thing you do, is get the water, evacuate the water that shouldn't be there. Then you start evaluating the system. And storm systems, I like to start at the end of the system and work my way back. It's a counterintuitive process, because you can spend all the money you want inside the house. If the water can't get out, it's all for nothing. So we start at the end of the system and make sure that it takes water. This system was plugged up, so we had to address it. Once we fixed the outside plumbing, everything was great. We just replaced the pumps because the 2 new pumps burned out because the water couldn't get out. So that was a bunch of money wasted. Plus, it flooded the house. Okay, so all they had to do was read the instructions on the box.
222-1180 is the number to call if you want to join in on the conversation. I neglected to give out the phone number. I apologize. But again, 222-1180. We normally don't take phone calls in the first segment anyway. But in studio tonight with Maurice Aubry, also with Pete Marisi, True Story Pete, and Brenna Hartman. This is Simply Green Radio. We will have a guest coming in studio with us, already in studio, as a matter of fact, Rob Fornataro with SWBR Architects. We'll be back with more of Simply Green Radio, brought to you by Simply Green Energy and Mr. Rooter Plumbing, here on News Radio 1180 WHAM.